afternoon, everybody. I would like to introduce you to a special guest that I invited to be with us today for those of you who are interested in the restaurant business and someday maybe opening your own restaurant. I have an expert in the field. His name is Brandon Laureano, and I'd like to welcome him in to speak to you.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time. It's good to be with you guys today. Today I'm going to talk to you guys just a little bit about the basic information needed in order to succeed in the restaurant business for those of you that have an interest in being in this field. So let me ask you guys something. Have you guys ever thought to yourself, maybe not even that you know about the restaurant business, just, man, it'd be really cool to make my own recipes, come up with my own ideas, and share it with the rest of the community, and maybe even have the image of, wow, he makes pretty good food. That was awesome. Well, believe it or not, there's a lot of people in the restaurant business that think that. There's a lot of people that have no idea what they are doing in the restaurant business, but they just open up a place thinking it'd be cool to do it. But then when they open up a restaurant, they realize that it is not as easy as they think it is, between the business to how much work it is, how hard it is to spread your word out to the rest of the community. It's a lot of work. And today I'm going to give you just a few tips on how you can be successful in the restaurant business. As Gordon Ramsay, the world-renowned celebrity chef, said, he said that it was a piece of advice he gave. He said, if you do not know what you are doing in the restaurant business, do not do it, because you have to know what you're doing in order to succeed. So he could not be more right about that. And I guess the way that I know a little bit about this is the fact that I come from a family that was in the restaurant business. It's my upbringing, so I know a thing or two about it, and I think that can maybe give you guys a better insight on some tips that will help your understanding of the business grow. Now, there's a few things that really require you have to understand and have this in your business in order to succeed. The number one thing, hands down, by far the front runner, if you do not have strong management in a restaurant, you're done. You're not going to survive. And there's two factors that management has to be strong in. Of course, taking care of their staff, and they've got to have a strong team, and you've obviously got to be able to deal with customers. Now, on the staff front, I would say one of the most important things is you have to be able to you have to be able to, you got to pay your staff fairly, because in the restaurant business, it's a lot of work and it is a money-making business. So you've got to be able to pay your staff fairly to where they come to work and they are excited to be there, to where they'll want to do a good job and the business can be as successful as humanly possible. A lot of people prefer to maybe pay less in the face of saving money, but then you're short-staffed and you're not able to get all of your customers fed. You want to be as efficient as you can. So I personally, from experience, advise everybody, if you want to have a strong staff, do that. It'll help you in the long run. And so you've got to pay your staff fairly. Remember, they might like what they do, but if they're not making money, they're not going to want to do it. So paying your staff fairly is very important. The last thing on that I would say is you've got to be able to create a fun, positive work environment so your people like coming to work. If they don't like coming to work, they're not going to want to do it. They're going to view it as miserable. And so it's very important for management to, yes, when there's problems, you deal with that, but you also want to be uplifting, positive, and motivate your staff to want to be the best they can be. The second part of, I think, having a strong management team is the fact that you have to be able to listen to customer feedback and take constructive criticism and deal with the problem, but you're also gracious and humble when you get positive feedback. So, for example, when there's a problem, I noticed that the number one mistake that a lot of people in this business make is the fact that managers, they just say, oh, comp it. Something's wrong, comp it, because they're busy or they don't want to, go deal with the guest, and they just figure, well, all the customer wants is a free meal. That's not all they want. They actually want a place that they can go and have a good experience at. So, few tips on how to deal with customers, I would say the first is if they're unhappy with a dish or something, you're gonna wanna refire that dish. So offer to make it again. If they're not happy with that, then I would basically say, maybe offer them something else on the menu. If they're still not happy, offer maybe a dessert. And then if even the dessert can't get them happy, maybe offer them a gift card for the purpose of getting them to come back, but to where they're still spending money. Because the job of a manager, increase sales and solve problems for customers. Have them leave that door as happy as they can possibly leave it. That is, and again, a lot of people just pump it. If nothing else works, there's nothing you can do, they hate it, it's the worst restaurant ever, then you basically invite just, we're very sorry, and you take off a portion of our meal, but do not do that as your first solution. You're gonna lose money, and every time you turn around, $300 comps, really? $500 in comps? It's not a good way to do business. Have that customer leave as happy as they can, feel like, even if it wasn't the best experience, at least they care, but to where you're making the most amount of money you possibly can. Now, that is that on the management front of what you need to have a successful business. Now, the next thing that I would say, management has to know what their numbers are in order to make a profit. And there's some industry standards. I'd like to talk to you about that when we got here. For every dollar that a restaurant collects in revenue, you have to be able to, the liquor cost is about, you want to be running a 15% liquor cost. So for every dollar you collect, 15 cents goes to liquor. You want your food cost to be between 25 and 33%. And then you want your labor cost to be between 30 and 40%. You want your overhead costs like rent, utilities, energy, benefits, all these sorts of things, those are lower. Your biggest costs are labor. Your other biggest cost is food.
Product.
Right. And your labor cost, your pour cost, and your food cost. Those are your biggest factors for sure in regards to the numbers that you need. So you have to know where each restaurant's numbers are at, and you've got to know where the industry standards are that could take you to some level of profitability. Now, lastly, and this is the last point I'd like to make, the other thing that management has to be able to do is management has to be able to, it's very important to implement standards in your restaurant. Things that, because if you don't have standards or a list of rules that management can enforce to make them, to allow the restaurant to operate the way it needs to operate, you're not going to be able to uphold your business. You've got to protect your business with standards, rules, and setting all that from the get-go for management, from a management perspective, is a very important thing to do. So you have to be able to do that. Now, I appreciate everybody being here today. I hope I did the best I could. And I would say management, knowing what your costs are and where they should be and implementing standards is the most important thing you need to be able to know in order to succeed in business. If you can do that, you're gonna make it in this business, and I can tell you from experience, that's gonna be the way the cards will play out for you. Thank you very much for being here today. I appreciate your guys' time. It's been an honor. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.